Hello, everybody. My name is TRG. I'm still sick. This is being made of the same day because the new doc dropped, and a bunch of the supposed victims or the new supporters of the doc, I put supporters in quotations, it came to me and commented on my other video. We're gonna ignore them trying to dislike bomb because they didn't like that I contested them, but we're gonna go and see how these people are. I don't know what I'm going to name this video. Probably the victims and doc defenders try to came after me, but let's go and look at some of the stuff, right? So the first thing is that they disliked it, but I'm going to go and show you why this dislike is not applicable. So let's go to here, right? So I talked about the doc before, and I said it doesn't really have much. It's a 40-minute video that covers the pages, but reading through it and skimming through it, you can go and like just look and try to pick out things from it. What they claim is not the same thing as what is shown in the evidence. They'll claim things like grooming, and then they have to backtrack and say not all grooming is sexual. Spoiler alert, it is. The whole thing with grooming is not sexual, only works in specific locations, and we're actually going to come back to that. Or you have to take the generic definition, which doesn't really work. It's a specific claim. Another one is like there's the new doc. This person left like 15 of them. The new doc doesn't really show anything. And then again, the new doc, like they act like is. But this one was one that was clearly obvious. This one is a person that tries to let's just ignore that. This one tried to push the claim multiple times, right? They say that Nominal made his response with his own document. All he did was bring in a lure and just lied to save his own skin. Let's say that he lied. What does that have to do with anything? Because this is on the original video with the hypnosis claim, not the second document. What does that have to do with the hypnosis claim being false factually? And what does him bringing in a lawyer have to do with anything as well? This is the level of logic that people went and tried to contest me after I said this doesn't really have much. That he never apologized a single time. Okay, that could be a criticism. And we're talking about a guy that committed a literal crime. No, scrap that. Multiple crimes, and you still defend this guy. The only crime that I could trace down that actually had any sort of validity was the thing when he had a relationship with a 17-year-old and the 17-year-old sent him nudes. Which, yeah, on paper, that is a crime. Like, on the most, like, if you just took the law as it is a crime. But I'm going to go and offer you a thought process. What judge would litigate a 17 and a 19-year-old having a relationship in which they might be able to have sex? No, scratch that. In most states, they're able to have sex. In most countries like Canada or the UK, you can have sex, but then draw the line at sexting. What judge would do that? And what judge would see the age gap and be like, oh my God. Like, please tell me, because none of us are qualified to speak about this because we're not lawyers, right? We're not people that can go and defend and stuff like this. This would have to actually be settled in court. But when it comes down to this, you can't go and say like, that is 100% a crime. It's like, well, there's a billion defenses I can think for that. But that's the only possible crime that has any credibility. Everything else is not a crime. Like the sexual assault claim, unfortunately, that's not a crime. All they did was deflect and say, no, the person's mentally vulnerable. Well, it doesn't matter because the person is able to have control of their own actions. Unless you put a level of incompetency that is like this person is mentally challenged, you're not going to be able to do that. Sorry for the cuts. There's going to be a lot of them for me coughing, so I don't blow your ears out. But when I went and said that to that person, said like, would a judge waste their time with this? This was the immediate response I got. I think that if your whole thing is like a person is dealing with illegalities and then you immediately go into this, there's a problem. it's showing vindictiveness rather than actual points. But let's continue, right? I tell them like this is no, it's thinking critically. They say I deny everything and not listen to other people. That's incorrect. I listen to them, I talk to them, and I argue with them. That's different. If I wasn't listening to people, I would have just deleted them. That's a different thing. So I don't know what they said. It's trying to go and paint what I said and paint what I think as if I agreed with somebody and now I'm thinking like that, but I was the one that brought up this idea in the first place. If you're talking about another person that watched my video, that's fine, but I was the one that came up with this and analyzed it. Out of everybody that covered it, I was the only one that said something like this. There's a few comments that had like similar ideas, but I actually went through the doc and I haven't seen any video like it. So I don't really know what that point is. We have another one which doesn't really work. Unless you went through hypnosis, you wouldn't know a damn thing about it. Oh, why are you, first of all, why are you acting aggressive? You don't know it about it either. The fact that you knew the victim was drunk at the time and completely forgot about it afterwards is crazy work. You being drunk and making poor decisions does not really mean anything. And telling from how you completely scroll past the messages of other victims who is a minor, and this is obviously one-sided. Nominal has said and admitted he did all this multiple times with other people. So once again, this is another problem. So let's do this. Firstly, you don't need to undergo hypnosis to do like 5 seconds of research to understand the fundamentals of hypnosis. The biggest problem is that this is not how hypnosis works. This is for specifically the person that claimed that they essayed them. That claim would have to basically work on like such a nonsensical level of logic that doesn't exist. Because unfortunately, the only true hypnosis is hypnotherapy, which is usually done by a psychologist. Every other version of hypnosis is not a real thing. And, you know, Nominal admitted to things, but the problem here is that even if he admitted it, right? Let's say he did X action. That doesn't mean the claim of Y action is true. Those two things are independent. And those two claims are independent. If you want to call him an ass, that's fine. There's many people that are asses on the internet, and I think that you could make a case for Nominal. I would say that he's more mentally ill than anything, and that's not an insult. That's more of like, I'm seeing this and I'm wondering if he does have stuff like a bipolar disorder, because there's an extreme switch up. The reason why I say that is because I have a brother that's that, and that can happen very easily. But that's neither here nor there. But if you want to say that, you know, that's whatever. But to say that, you know, there's X action and he agrees with it and he said that and he admits it, means that Y action is true is just completely nonsensical. Y action needs Y evidence, not X evidence. This is the grooming stuff of like, grooming doesn't always have to be sexual. The problem with this argument that I find is that to say that you not only need to make grooming, the allegation of grooming, nonsense, basically super arbitrary, in which it's just a descriptive word, but the grooming itself would have to become so generic to the idea of grooming, just the basic definition. Like, I'm going to groom you into becoming a soldier, in which it's more conditioning. That's not a claim, that's not an accusation, that's a description, which is not the same thing as what is trying to be portrayed, right? And when I explain this, people like this try to say you shouldn't defend it. But the problem here is that it was not sexual. This person conflates two different things. I don't know where this allegation goes, because when they were talking about grooming, they said it wasn't sexual, but then they said it was sexual. So I don't think this person even understands the doc. But I never said it was only sexual as well. The problem here is that when it becomes grooming, usually it's only for two things: extreme actions and sexual actions, not, hey, I want to be your friend and you're going to accept my friendship. That's something else. That's just being weird and an asshole. Like, can we understand that those are completely separate claims, right? Like, and especially when when you say this is grooming, but then you say, whoa, wait, it's not that type of grooming. I find it very deliberate in the manipulation of the language there, especially when you take it into the super generic idea, which that type of grooming could be literally anything, and you can claim it on almost anything. It doesn't really make any sense, especially when the doc says, like, it gives a random standard of like an adult shouldn't be interacting with a child. But if we take that, if you play Super Smash Brothers, you're a groomer then, because you probably interacted with a child. And this rubbed me the wrong way as well, where it said, how is he innocent when there's many victims? I've spoken to some victims. The problem is that the victims' claims here are not the same thing as what the evidence is showing. It's conflating a bunch of ideas or playing this word game to make it seem much worse than it actually is. And it's like, you can call him like an ass, you can call him mentally unstable, you can call him a lot of things. But when you try to attach the word groomer, you know what you're doing. That's not the thing that you do, especially when there's many different words that fit better with the accusation. And the problem that I'm having is that when we look at the accusation and we look at the evidence, it's not anywhere near or close as much as it should be. This, once again, is just to show the level of conversation that the people that are defending the doc and some of the people that are in the accused that will actually get to are the accusers actually go and try to use. Don't handle these accusations with maturity. Handle them with this. Sorry if I hit my mic. And this is actually one of the people. It's that_.1 or _1. Sorry. They say that this, because this is another person that tried to say on the behalf of them that, you know, something happened. And we'll give to them as well. And they say whether or not you believe me, it's not that. It's whether or not the evidence stands up. The evidence in that doc did not stand up to the claim that was trying to be pushed. But let's see more, right? I told them to be serious because this person gave me a very sarcastic, not accusation, but it was very sarcastic comments. I was like, if this is the level of what's happening, I'm going to assume maliciousness. But they say that they groomed one of the friends. He groomed them into a little sister, big brother relationship. Not the case. She was 14 and he was 20 at the time. I was there to see it happen. I was there when she was venting about him, and was there when she felt guilty for days on end because she thought she did something wrong, when in reality, it wasn't her fault. It may have been poor miscommunication for what I can remember, but that doesn't excuse the fact he was being weird with her. And that's the problem. Being weird is not the same thing as grooming. Problem is that these people are so diluted, so delusional, in thinking that grooming can be whatever they want to make it, that they can just say this. The problem is it wasn't grooming. You as the person, that even if you are 14, now you can say that, you know, this 20-year-old should know better, and that's a whole nother thing. But you as a person have literally a block button. I can't say that. And the problem is that when we looked at the evidence, there wasn't enough to say that there was any type of grooming. If you continuously engage with the person and you continuously talk to the person, you cannot say that was grooming. If you willingly did it. Whether or not there was feelings of uneasiness and all that, they still contacted the person. At no point or way, shape, or form did they go and report it to Discord saying, hey, this person's interacting inappropriately with minors. They didn't go and block them. They didn't go and try to like cast them out and try to box them to leave. Like, I understand that he is a public figure and that may be hard, but there's many different tools that you can do. Then, you know, they say you want proof, look at the new doc. Her name is that_1. By the way, it was somewhere under grooming. Once again, like, this person thinks I didn't look at the doc. I looked at it, wasn't there. This person again, yes, basically what you're saying is the definition of grooming matters. This came because I told them that the definition of like what you're trying to push as grooming is not the actual definition. So to actually get a unbiased definition of it and not some wacky stuff, let's just consult Google. So you can get the noun or verb, and pretty much they mean the exact same thing. But the one that they're talking about is the third one, which is, you know, sexual assault or inducing them to commit illegal actions. But that's not what they're talking about. The only one that agrees with them is the Metropolitan Police. That is a UK. That is a UK standard. Nowhere else do you ever have that. In Canada, you don't have that. And if we're gonna go and talk about like, let's bring in a UK standard against a person that's in like the United States with no obvious connections of like why you would do that, and it's the only single standard, and it's very cherry picked when you have things of sexual abuse, sexual abuse again. It's very odd. And this is what I'm saying with the whole thing with grooming. When it comes to this entire thing, it's malicious and it's deliberate into going and trying to making it as arbitrary as possible, and trying to take like the idea of grooming where it can be slapped onto anything and then be anything that the person wants. Because then what they're doing is that they're just using the second definition as a like adjective type of thing, rather than it actually being something that's talking about a very specific group of people that go and try to do terrible things to children or try to manipulate them, which is not what happened there. Even being the most generous of saying like, oh well, let's take that definition, there wasn't a level of manipulation that ever reached that mark, unfortunately. And when you look at the doc, it's like, okay, once again, the best thing that you can go and do it is ass or weird and not anything else. And it's terrible that people like this are trying to say that I'm saying the definition of grooming doesn't matter, when all they're doing is diluting the word down to basically mean anything that a person feels bad about when interacting with someone younger than them, in which there's an age gap. I call these people out, and this is what I get. They call me ignorant. I'm like, okay, how? Because I didn't say that. So that's whatever. And then they go and try to go and say that my logic is that an adult man could date a girl. I never said that. Matter of fact, you can go check the comments on that video. It's the first video that I made, not the one on the second doc. I never said that. This person shoved words in my mouth constantly. Well, that's like, yeah, they said like, I don't deflect now, because it's like, but the problem is that I'm not. Shoving words into my mouth, I think, is heinous, and I think that this show goes and shows the type of people that believe the doc and the type of people that go and try to push this doc. Obviously, they don't have a point when I countered them, and they stopped talking eventually once I went and said like, hey, you're strawmanning me like 50 times. But yeah. But then we have a person that, once again, is the friend of this person that goes and tries to push this, and I already talked about this, but they go and try to bring the Metropolitan Police UK, in which it's all this. There's two problems with this. Even if I were to give it, there was no abuse that happened here. The abuse, first of all, abuse is a very, very specific thing as well, which is usually harm to a person that reaches a standard in which it can be perpetrated. So this includes things like getting hit or being taken advantage of. At no time did they show that. Once again, like, and the thing is that if you can stop it, there is a level of that you have that responsibility with that block button. It's the same thing with like the harassment claim when it comes to that, where it's like this person did not cut off connections and continue to talk about the person and argue. That is you willingly doing that. That's not harassment. But that's besides the point. This is not like, it's not any way, shape, or form valid when this is the only one that goes and stretches that definition. And then they go and try to push the claim once again that they manipulated there into a sister-brother relationship. And the problem is once again, the evidence doesn't show that. And let's not like have me just say watch the other video and all that. Let's actually look at this. When you go and look at it, they're having a normal conversation. They say, no, you didn't know what I was uncomfortable with. It's like, I know you didn't. It just felt really weird, blah, blah, blah. My little ghosted, blah, blah, blah. I wish you talked to me more, blah, blah, blah. They're having a normal conversation. Like, you can't go and honestly say, like, this is manipulation if, like, that's a normal conversation. That's not grooming. there's more to it. Once again, normal conversations, normal, 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 no, normal, kind of weird, but that's whatever. It later on gets into a completely different thing. This is like taking down the animations and stuff, but this is that is different than this, which once again, like there's not any manipulation in here at all. Like I can't go and speculate what happened, right? It would be a disservice to everybody. But if you come over to me and say this person had like a relationship with this other person and there was manipulation and here's the evidence, and I go look at it and it's like normal conversation, normal conversation, normal conversation, you're lying at that point. So when we go back and read this and we say that he manipulated her, there's a problem here because the evidence just doesn't show it. You're going to come to me and say, like, let's say that we give this thing and we toss out the grooming allegations like they did. Where's the manipulation? The manipulation just so happened to disappear, like the Epstein files just so happened to disappear. They say that there was poor communication on top of that. Let's say that was the case. That seems to be the most likely explanation, that there was something going on there. The problem is that they try to underplay this and say that he did all this stuff, but like again, we just showed like that wasn't it. And then they go and try to contest me. They said that who am I to say that? I'm a person that can go and look at the evidence. I'm a person that can go and look at the evidence that you provided in an expose that's supposed to have a very high standard. And when you don't give that, I say that you're lying, and that's very reasonable. I can say that because you failed. They also say, why does it matter where I get the definition from? It matters because if you only have a definition that exists in a single country, that's a problem because it means that it has no bearing on nominal. And if it's only correct in a single country, that means that it's not that correct at all. The real ones would be the ones that I got from Oxford or from Google. Google uses Oxford, and Webster. But why care about that and being right in the general sense, and when you can be right in the very, 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 very specific sense, which alone also doesn't prove your point, because there would also need to be abuse as well, which as far as the evidence goes and show there wasn't. So I don't know where this person is getting this idea. Like, I really don't know. They say that there's nothing there talking about UK law either. It comes from literally the Metropolitan Police. So where is this guy getting? This person is just trying to push the false allegations more. I understand that it is your friend, but you have to understand that at a certain point, the allegations are just untrue if you don't give anything. If you had to exaggerate, if you had to ignore that is UK like laws and ideas. I said the same thing that I said earlier to them as well, in which it's like, okay, well, let's say I didn't say it exactly, but let's say that all of that is true, that they manipulated them and all that. You refuse to use the tool of the block button. That makes it extremely difficult. And this is being so generous to like them and trying to assume everything is true. The lack of the usage of tools would be hard for you to say that there was abuse, because that means that you willingly did this. And the problem is that it's not financial abuse or physical abuse, emotional abuse, or anything of that. There's a whole nother set of standards which we're not legal people to deal with, but the problem is that you can just look at it and see that it's a generic conversation. And when you don't use the block button, it's almost impossible for you to like get that claim as well, even if I were to say it was valid. So there's so many different problems here when it comes to this, where the notion of these claims are over exaggerated and not held to a standard that is good. They ended off with trying to call me a brick wall. even though that I pointed out that they don't really know that much. Once again, I'm assuming that this is a kid, so I'm going to be a little bit kinder with this, even though I was going hard earlier. But the thing is that they refuse to admit that they're wrong. You have the ability to give so much more evidence, but then yet when you have the option to do that, you weren't able to get any of that. You weren't able to show any of that. What you showed was maybe an asshole. But when you go and claim anything else, you don't have anything of that. Those are two different claims. Those are two different things. And trying to end somebody's reputation over that is stupid. There's going to be many assholes in life. There's going to be many good and bad people that are assholes. There's going to be a billion things with assholes. You were probably an asshole to somebody, but that's not and it should not be a career-ending thing. It shouldn't result in like career-ending allegations. It shouldn't result in criminal allegations because this person that made the doc was too lazy to do 5 seconds of research and understand that that claim is absolutely bonkers and still yet is trying to push that. And I don't know why. Just the interaction of this leads me to believe that these claims are not coming from a place of actual genuine, I want this, I want justice. Because when faced with actual scrutiny, like a justice system would, or anybody that would try to seek out justice would, like me, in which I'm trying to see if there's anything that is, anything that is true, because then I would have deleted my previous video, and nothing comes up, there's a problem. Especially when you mislabel things and then you go and try to justify that mislabeling because you want to go and use the word groom instead of actually describing how it is. Even though that you gave the evidence right in front of our faces. But yet you go and try to make people think a certain way rather than actually presenting the evidence as such. And like I said, with the interactions of these people trying to come up with, the people that bring up allegations, this is not any way, shape, or form done in a way that is actual true and is a way that is meant to bring true allegations up front. This is more to go and just try to slander him.